Guys, here we are, Stoomboy, the Combat Companion. So, as always, show's brought to you by Hard Life Fightwear. So, Hard Life Fightwear offering a range of products, whether it be gi, no gi, MMA, they do have you covered. So, anybody looking for any cool gear, then make sure you hit up hardlifefightwear.co.uk. Use the discount code STOOM15 and you will get a bit of a discount through there. So today we're joined by Wrestling Elite. Carolyn Wester of Wrestling Prep. So we're going to hear a little bit about Carolyn. Carolyn has trained some of the top MMA fighters, grapplers, wrestlers from all over. And it's going to be exciting to hear some of the stuff. Obviously, I read some of the stuff. We saw some videos and so on. And what makes it unique as well is obviously she's probably one of the very, very few women in the sport at that level. So it's going to be very exciting to hear her talk about that, talk about how she got into it and stuff like that as well. So we're very excited. She's going to be heading over to Scotland on March the 14th as well. Going to be heading to Braveheart MMA to do a wrestling seminar there. So guys, anybody in Scotland, make sure you head over to Braveheart MMA for that day because it will be a very, very educational day for you for sure. So, but Carolyn, listen, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me.
I'm so excited, Stuart. Thank you for having me.
So tell us about you then. So obviously I read a few things about you. You were a venture capitalist. So you were going to be very, very rich, but then decided to come away from it and move purposely or solely into wrestling.
Well, I wish it was that clear cut. That's I had been working in venture capital for about 15 years in Silicon Valley, and my youngest child wanted to wrestle, and I had just closed a very large deal that it gave me some breathing room for a period of time, and I went over to Stanford with them, and I was watching wrestling. I'd never been around wrestling much, and a high school sweetheart wrestled, but not any level really, and I was watching. And I just couldn't understand why they would do it the way they were doing it from a math-based perspective. It was ineffective. And I really felt like if they were engineers, they would be fired because the structures they were building with their body was not congruent to the force and velocity they needed to hit the opponent at a certain point or level or anything to make them go on their back. And they had all these sort of contorted ways to enter to the structure, and that I eventually realized is because they couldn't use their body correctly because no one had taught them sequential muscle order, which is what I coined what I do. I came up with that terminology and body leveraging. And when I started, one of the athletes asked me, and once I started participating that way, it turned into something. So when I was asked to go back to do another turnaround in the VC world, I was really already enjoying myself in the wrestling community. And so pretty quickly it became something, but it never was my intent. Nobody I went to high school with or college would say I was ever going to be a wrestling coach. And now 20 years later, here I am still.
Yeah. It's an interesting one as well because, as I said, wrestling's been around for thousands of years. I mean, you're talking about going back to the days of old ancient Greece and things like that. So, and a lot of these guys a lot of these wrestlers, should I say, have went with the same old techniques that they've learned over the years for thousands of years, and then it just takes someone that isn't a part of the wrestling community or part of the wrestling scene to come in and see things a little bit differently.
It was an interesting, clash, perfect storm, whatever you want to call it. I was of an age where I wasn't really looking to others to make me feel good about myself. I had no history with wrestling, so I didn't have a career reputation I needed to uphold, and I didn't have a career that made me want to do more because I didn't do as well as I wanted in my career. I was just a person who was standing there and could see that the intensity of the sport and what it caused a young athlete to become was worthy of trying to support the athletes and what they're doing. And that's how we really became Wrestling Prep initially. Like, how could I help these athletes in the youth program at the Stanford University wrestling facility be, do better in school, do better in nutrition, attend more tournaments. And then really over time, there was an athlete who was from the Olympic Training Center who said, you really know more than you think you do. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You say what you want to say, because what do you have to lose? And really, at the time, I thought nothing. So, we sort of jumped in, and I don't know, within a year, we probably had 200 or 300 people at camps, and now it's not something I can actually control on my own. I have a lot of people, including Alejandro Viner's sister, Sophia, works with me, and several other people who make it possible for me to go and do everything I do now.
Yeah. What about, obviously, at the very beginning? Because wrestling, like a lot of combat sports, is very, very male dominated. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
especially going back to, you're talking 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of females in any kind of combat sports at all. So what kind of difficulties was it for you, or what kind of things did you face at the very beginning when you tried to get your theory across, or tried to get what you were trying to teach across to people?
Well, I really didn't see it as Stuart, like I wanted to. Do you say Stuart, or how do you say your name?
Stuart, or Stuart. I
Stuart.
think in America it's Stuart, but yeah,
My
Stuart.
brother's name, one of my brothers is named Stuart, and we
Yeah.
say Stuart. So,
Yes.
so forgive me if I'm butchering
No,
it.
no.
But in the beginning, really, I wasn't trying to make a living coaching. I didn't need to do that. I just wanted to help, and I was faced with immediate slander. I have to be sleeping with someone, kids, adults, men, trying to steal people's husbands, all that kind of stuff. People would say, get a life, get out of here. They would bark at me, and I'd say, are you barking? Yeah, I'd rather bark at you than call you a bitch. I mean, my tires were slashed on my car. My house was painted. Terrible things were written about my daughter on the wrestling forum in California. But there was enough people who could see the improvement in the athletes I worked with, and a couple of families initially who went on to be like NCAA finalists, D1 finalists, who had me around. And really, I just cared, but I didn't care. It really, I guess, Stuart, the biggest opportunity was it forced me to deal with things in my own life where I was susceptible to other people's thoughts. I had to clear all that up, and what caused me to feel that way. And once I got through that, it was fine. And then I think the first major MMA person who came in my path was Gray Maynard and Luke Rockhold. And then one day I was home and I get a phone call, and this voice says, this is Carolyn Wester. And I say, yes, sir. And he said, this is Daniel Cormier. And I'm like, whoever you are, I had no idea. And he's like, can I bring some athletes to your wrestling practice? That was 2011. And he came, and he had a bunch of youth program. And the youth wrestlers actually had been wrestling with me for a while. In America, there's this culture that some of these people or coaches believe if an athlete comes to your program, then they belong to them, almost like a child or something. And I just wanted everybody to go to college. So Daniel comes over. He has like the Cepedas and Chase Saldate and all these kids with him who are now, well known on the national scene. And he was watching them practice the way I coach. And then he looked at me and he goes, you have no agenda toward these kids, do you? I said, no, I just want him to go to college. And then he just sat down on the floor on the mat and started playing on his phone. And then he called me a few days later. He wanted an athlete I work with, John Hall, who had graduated from BU, who was around, to come be a workout partner because John was really big. And he said to me, come on over. We want you all to come over to AKA. And then I don't think I said much for about the first 8 months. And then at least that's what Javier Mendez says. And then I got up one day and everyone was like kind of looking at me. And I said to one of the fighters, do you want to know what the other option is, or really what Daniel is asking you to do? because I would say it a different way that sometimes is more conducive to somebody who's never wrestled like an MMA fighter. And
Yeah.
so much of their progression has to do with weight variation and distribution and making a weight bearing side, which isn't something that traditional wrestlers explained, but it is the only way I know it. So once I did that, Javier Mendez was like, hey, you're a lot better than everybody else. And then shortly thereafter, he would funnel, a lot of the fighters who had upcoming fights to me. And then, someone asked me to be in the corner. And then I've cornered many, 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 many UFC fights. And to the best of my knowledge, I'm the first woman that's singularly a coach that was a spouse, like you take Amanda and Nina, she's a spouse, but she's, incredible. But they weren't really on this. They were just up and coming then. And I went to the first fight in Monterrey, Mexico. And I went to the Reebok room. Back it was Reebok before it was Venom. I went to the Reebok room to get my gear. And the man was giddy. And I'm like, okay. And he said to me, do you have Reebok underwear? And I said, there will be no scenario in this fight in which my underwear will be on display. Because how all the guys' underwear, their sweat trash slide down. I'm like, rest assured, there will be no underwear display in my cornering debut. But I just turned into something. And it's my Javier Mendez is my most cherished relationship in MMA. And then there's no way to replace the long-established relationships with Cormier and Rockhold and Habib and Islam, both Islams, and Umar and Abukar, and all those athletes who, I still interact with. I was just with Islam, all the time.
Yeah. Tell us about the program itself then, because obviously, again, you talked about math and there's a lot of science and stuff like that, the body leveraging and so on that goes into what you do. So tell us about that then.
Yeah, so it was interesting. What I noticed right away, Stuart, was that some of the parents or even some of the coaches in the MMA world would get raised voices and anxious if an athlete didn't execute the way they wanted. And then when the athlete couldn't do it, instead of adjusting and trying to think of an alternative way to express or train them, they would just increase the volume and the intensity of the words. And children, fighters are fighters, right? But children, they're dependent on that parent for food, shelter, love, and water. And that triggered something in me from my own childhood to not want that for them. So I was like, how can I teach them how to execute technique? Because I would see this athlete from the Olympic Training Center teaching, and then the 14-year-old would try to do it, and he couldn't do it. And this athlete was a 30-plus-year-old male, was extremely athletic and could just do it. And I'm like, I have to figure out a way to teach them. So I paid a lot of attention to the muscle order that needed. First, I tried to look at the other athletes and do it. And then I realized there was too much variation in body type. Long body, short legs, short body, long legs. I mean, even when you apply that logic to yourself, just us talking, of course, it's a different way to stand up for somebody with short legs than long legs. But that's what not giving any attention at that time. So I started working with some of these athletes who wanted to work with me, and I realized I have to come up with something. So every piece of movement we do that we call body leveraging is actually correlates and congruent to every piece of technique. Probably 85% of the math-based technique that's most effective against the best body defense an opponent can have. And that's why I became so valuable. And then once somebody can use their body, then we go for the technique. It's funny that I'm known for body leveraging, but actuality, I'm valued at the higher levels because of my understanding of the technique and what technique applied based on body type, based on how you use your body. So many people, Stuart, when they advance in grappling or particularly jiu-jitsu or MMA toward their person, nobody has ever said the distance between your right ankle and your left ankle needs to be congruent to the proportion of your height of your torso. And then how do you take that structure forward? And then when you come backwards, how do you retreat but still be able to take a shot or strike or kick from that situation? And that's just something Probably, I don't know. I'm sure anybody who grew up with me is like, I don't know where she learned that, because I didn't. It's just the way my, I'm a little bit autistic, or the way my brain functions, I guess, because I see it as clearly as I could pick out milk from orange juice at a grocery store.
Yeah, yeah. And it's great. I mean, as I said, I was looking at some of the videos that, excuse me, some of the videos that is online, and some of the videos that Philip sent me, and so on. And it's definitely different from what you would normally see at a typical wrestling class. With some of the stuff that you do, especially the flips and there was one video. It was about um, closing distance. And what they did, I think they did a kind of forward roll and then straight away. And the other person was kind of moving away, but the grappler that was coming towards him was on him straight away, very, very quickly. And he closed that distance very, very well.
So interestingly, that person that was going backwards is Angel Cejudo, Henry Cejudo's older brother, and his coach, all the way up until just a few years ago in MMA. And the athlete is Chris Creason. And what Chrissy was doing was he built a structure with his body, and he used his calf and his hamstring to rotate his structure, causing him to land with his trail leg with exact 90 degrees between his hamstring and his calf, allowing him to shoot with optimal force, which meant rotating on his lead foot, his heel to his toe, and taking his trail leg forward instead of what traditional forms of shooting of taking their lead leg forward. Yeah. And the amount of structure tweaking it takes to put your body in a situation where you can optimally extend your lead leg to shoot is very hard. But if you learn to shoot with your trail leg, one, you go farther. Two, it's deceptive because, currently only people at the highest level in wrestling and sports know that that's coming. And the distance you could cover is tremendous. And you see Chris, he's in that video, he's in 7th grade. And he is covering that distance. I was actually in Arizona for a Bellator fight that weekend, and I was over at Valiant Prep coaching.
The distance the distance that he covered was phenomenal. I mean, as they because obviously, typically, you know yourself, typically whether it be in wrestling or jiu-jitsu or whatever, the distance is usually like a few feet away. Whereas I think he covered, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 feet in a second. And I remember the was Angel. He was like, oh my God, that he could not believe it. He could not believe it at all.
It's funny. Chris's average standing trail leg shot was about 22 feet. So when you can accelerate to go that far, your fastest point of acceleration is far past your opponent. So when you hit them, if your body structure is correct and you're at the right placing based on their body type, then there's really nothing that could happen. So you saw when Chris shot in that video, instead of bringing his body up and putting his shoulders underneath Angel's hips, where the majority of Angel's muscle structure is in his glutes, to push forward, he went down right at the knee and just covered it. And blocked his heels, and then his velocity, sent Angel flying.
Is it difficult as well, like teaching someone, let's say someone that's been in wrestling for years, do you know what I mean? Because obviously you've came across people that have maybe been wrestling for 10, 15, 20 years, and they've obviously got things in their head, and what you're doing is going in and maybe not necessarily trying to change it all, but trying to add in new things. So is there a difficulty sometimes in trying to teach what you do to an older head that's been in the game for a while?
Yes and no. So usually the way to handle it, I think, is to address initially right up front a piece of movement or technique that is sort of germane to everyone in the practice. And I have them do it. And then I ask them to, change their structure a little bit and use different muscles in order. And the immediate difference is so great that it's amazement and hope. Because some people, whether they're a hobbyist or they're a professional fighter or they want to get a scholarship to college, they feel the pressure that they feel, right? They've been doing something a long time. They want to get better at it. They want to get a higher belt. They want to feel like they've done something. And really the whole time they may just simply have been sabotaging themselves by, not intentionally. Sabotage probably isn't the right word. Inhibiting what they could do, limiting what they could do, but not having an accurate understanding of how they can use their body. So that is always very simple. You will get some athletes, both fighters and wrestlers, who their self-image and the things that have happened to them that have made them who they are makes them oversensitive to being seen as needing to learn something. But I don't take that. That can't be about me, right? Because I'm not really. I don't let kids run around. And I don't let people talk over top of me. But in general, I'm relatively nice. So I will rearrange what I'm saying till they can get it. The most pushback I used to get was from men, and on an occasion one woman who felt threatened, I guess, or that I hadn't gone through, wasn't tested in the wrestling mat, or etc. And how could I possibly know? And that's that in our world today, we're all taught by social media and things that we're supposed to know everything, that we're susceptible to everybody's opinion. I grew up, my dad was a national politician in a U.S. Senator's office in the National Party, and there was stuff written about him all the time and about us, true and not true, right?
Yeah.
Some of it was true and some of it was not true. And you have to learn the lesson, the place you put yourself in your life, it defines how you react to situations you've already been in. So I chose not to react. I don't respond to maybe less than 1% of any comments I ever see. I don't look at them. I'm not, because to me, the anonymity of someone who doesn't use their name, who won't use my name when they're using innuendo for fear of, reprisal, who make up these things. When I'm in the room, when I went up to Nick Catone's and I was sitting in this chair and Islam came in and he saw me and they come over, Islam and Habib and Ali, and they're talking to me and some of them hug me, which is, extremely uncommon for those gentlemen to feel comfortable with a woman. Those people in anonymity, they're not there.
Yeah.
And it's the reason I have those relationships with people is because they feel that I don't care about those things, and they're not afraid of being vulnerable around me, and I am not afraid of being vulnerable around them. So it all comes down to vulnerability when you're teaching, and has somebody had that experience? Do they know what that means? And I try to explain, hey, maybe this would be an opportunity for you to be vulnerable and just take it in. If you don't want to do it, who cares? It doesn't matter to me. I'm at a point where no one person is going to make or break my reputation for what I've done. And not everybody is going to be evolved enough to catch it. And to me, when somebody is like straight up, I wouldn't let a woman, or I don't know her, or she doesn't look like a fighter. They don't realize I'm 63. They think I'm 42. And, but as soon as I put my hands on them, they're like, what happened?
Yes.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, there's a funny story. This woman was interviewing me and wanted to interview Javier Mendez. And I think Javi told her that there was an athlete who came who was insistent that I be his coach. And he said, hey, she's got to be in the corner with you. And he said, oh, I don't like the aesthetics of a woman in a corner. And Javi told this reporter, and she said to me, Javi said he never told you that because he was afraid you would cry. I said, cry? I just want to say thank you, because I don't want to deal with anyone who's so limited that they think the gender of the person providing the information or their physical appearance is congruent to their knowledge. I mean, do you have children, Stuart?
Yeah, I've got boys and one girl. So,
So, well, if we were going, if one of our kids was in an accident and we go to the emergency room and the doctor comes out and they've got one boob and they're a cross dresser, transgender, some a country we don't like, whatever, if they save our kids' lives, they look like an angel to us.
yes, yes.
The knowledge they have. And I think that if you can apply that type of viewpoint in everything you do, you're going to excel more quickly, no matter what it is. And I think when somebody isn't ready to hear something that I might have to say, or, then I'm grateful.
Yeah.
If they just come up and say it and we just move on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely.
I'm not looking for, as I heard my daughter say on a podcast recently, and she's actually in Ireland this week for work. She said, I don't endeavor to be humble at work. And I'm not endeavoring to meet everybody's need. I'm not looking to be popular. I'm okay with all of it. The only people who really lose out, from what I can tell from the feedback I've gotten all these years, are the people that don't try. And sometimes people don't want to come to me because they see athletes flipping. I am not going to ask a bunch of people to flip or try to flip if they don't feel like they can. But I am going to show them how 85% of what they're currently doing in jiu-jitsu or MMA is going to be enhanced by probably 3 to 6 sequential muscle orders, and I'm going to teach them how to do that. And that in and of itself opens up their ability to enhance or learn more technique when they can accomplish particular movement and then add the technique to it that they're already doing. And I'll let them tell me what the technique is they're doing, and I'll help them make that better. And then if there's an obvious different thing that we can do, then I will share that with them. But I asked them, I'm like, do you want to know this? Because I'm not interested in hitting anybody over the head.
No, definitely. Obviously, you love teaching it to everybody, but is there a specific type of person that when you go in and you show them things and they get it, is there a specific type of person that you think, wow, no, like maybe it's someone who has maybe never done it before, or maybe an MMA fighter that's stuck in their ways, then suddenly you teach them something and they're like, wow, and it changed things for them. So is there a specific person where when they get it, you're like, yes?
Yeah, there are lots of people. I think in the current MMA world, if you come and practice with me, or I come and practice with you, when you look at some of the most recent film of maybe how Islam uses, how he steps into strike, that you'll see it.
Yeah.
You'll see it. There's a lot of video of Islam doing things that I teach, and I feel comfortable saying he might have, I just want to be cautious because I don't like to assume things. But I think people who just realize the logic of it and feel stronger. You have people like Habib, who is just this incredible worker. And they, lived in my home. So I know them a little bit, better than other people would, different perspective. But Islam is more naturally talented, and probably Usman Nurmagomedov is the most talented. But I think one of the early fighters that I saw who was beautiful to watch, who picks up the knowledge and applies it right away, would have been Luke Rockhold in his mid-20s. Like Luke has a fluidity and grace during those years. It's hard to take with you forever, into his current age, but his abilities, and even I think maybe last year he was at the Craig Jones Invitational, and I was out working with him before that out in Santa Monica. So, I don't know if there's just like one person. We post a lot of video of where we've taught something, and then if people are doing it. What's problematic for people, I think, is that they see it and they can't grasp the first part to find the second part. So, when you're little and they have those, like, where's Waldo, or what's different? Find the 12 bananas in this picture. Well, when you start looking for a banana, you already know what a banana looks like. When I'm talking about a three-sided figure or, making a certain structure and they're like, that's a quad pod. Like, actually, it's a tripod and it's also three-dimensional because their ears are between their bicep. They don't always get that. We do have courses where they can buy it and I don't, if somebody wants to buy the course, is great. If they don't, I'm cool with that. But once they see the structure and get it, or the sequential muscle order, then when they watch people, those people are like, coach, did you see? I did this. I did a straight wrist pull. I did, and they're so excited, and it's euphoric for them. But when people in general are commentating and wrestling and fighting, unless they know me specifically, they're like, oh, they're a great scrambler. Oh, that other person needs to learn how to defend shots. But in actuality, the space covered and the velocity applied and everything that occurs is much greater than they don't do it. I think a lot of times somebody will, especially in wrestling, somebody, I'm in the corner and there's another coach and their opponent applies some technique that's completely predicated on the person having not the best math-based position. And I'll have a wrestler of lesser rank or knowledge or whatever, and they'll be in that position. And then the coach, an assumption is always that their athlete is not doing correctly. Instead of going, this athlete has a better math-based structure, a better engineered structure, or better weight distribution. I didn't study kinesiology or any of that, sports science, anything. So I don't always say it the way other people do. It's my made up, my made up gibberish language. But my athletes know it. But once you see it, then you see it. And then people are just astounded about how much simpler it is. Because once you're in the right body structure and it's not penetrable as easy, and you have a means of attack from it that's math-based that allows you a high level of velocity and your trajectory is parallel to the mat, you don't need to know 50% of the defense or manipulative technique to accommodate than you would if you didn't know how to use your body that way.
Yeah. You mentioned courses, so let me just bring up the courses. So I have, so I don't know if you could see that.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, so the courses, obviously the courses there, so there's the two different courses that we can see. And I know that people like Philip, especially Philip Tam, obviously he's been over. So obviously he knows what to expect. But tell us about the courses then. What can people expect on each of the courses?
So the course one is strictly about the sequential muscle order. It's the muscle order, and there's references to technique that works with it. Like whether this is top, bottom, neutral, neutral attack, defense, and it's really teaching you how to use your body. A lot of people look at it or use it, and they feel like they watched what the athlete is doing in the demo, and their mind is telling them they can't do it. But a lot of times when I can get people to shut off, letting their brain imagine what it should look like. So like if you're a gymnast, you know that you're being scored on the shapes in ice skating, the shapes and forms your body's making. I'm not trying to do any of that. We're trying to create force. We're right, contact and stuff. So that's what the first one is. And even if you get to the parts where you feel like you can't replicate exactly what they're doing in terms of what it looks like, just contracting the muscles in the correct order and using them is superior. The math-based principles are the structures that you build that are rarely penetrable, and then you can apply technique to it. And the next set of courses we'll do will be the technique. So we try to release one a year. So we don't want to flood the market and have people pick and choose, because we are hoping they do them both, because it's progression. Sometimes people will ask me, do I need the one or two, which order? I mean, in some cases, they need to pick, but it's best if you can do 1 to 2. If you're an adult in your 40s, maybe it would be 2 to 1.
Yeah,
Course
yeah,
2 to course 1.
yeah. And obviously some great feedback. Obviously, we saw the video. Was Alejandro and Michael Pixley, I think it was. They did the video. I'm sure it was Michael Pixley. And obviously, you see some of the feedback there. Josh Saunders just saying, look, at the World Championship, Carolyn was always there for me when I needed help. She taught me so many things. Though the move that always stuck with me was the backstop snap down pivot to a sweep.
Yeah.
So obviously Josh going into a little bit more detail there. So and Josh 2 times USA World Team, 3 times
Now
national
3.
champion.
Now 3. Now 3.
Yeah. So 3 times
Yeah.
USA World Team. So Javier Mendez as well. Obviously head coach and owner at AKA. She's tremendous. She's a great technician, great mind. She is a wrestling perfectionist. So, and again, that I mean that to hear that coming from Javier Mendez must be absolutely brilliant for you to hear that.
Javier Mendez is absolutely the most humble, unself-involved human being. He is probably the only person who could say something to me where I'm going to hear it fully the first time. He
Yeah.
is incredible. He when he came back after COVID, he said, I want you to be on my podcast. And he said, because I'm concerned that with everything going on in the world, that people might not really ever know how I feel about you. And he, on the podcast, the person, the narrator, whatever you call him, interviewer, asked him about striking. And he said, she asked me if she could come watch striking. And he said, she watched, and then she came back and she said, Coach, I believe you said this, this, and this, and this. And Javi said, literally, it was 15, 20% better than I've ever said it, that she could catch it
Yeah.
so quickly and then apply it. And I think that's, Javi is my number one. I was just, when Islam was here when they were preparing for Islam's fight, they were not very far from me, and I was invited to come up for the fight camp. And just how excited, I think it was the other people that were there. Nick Catone was the first time I've been around him. He's a UFC legend and a great man. And I think he knew that I wouldn't be invited if I didn't know. But Frankie Edgar was around, and Frankie and I know each other and from wrestling and things like that. But just how accepted I was, and that is because all those people respected Javi. So when I had something to say, they listened. Now, hey, listen, it's up to them to choose whether they want to continue to listen or not listen. But over the years, it's proven to be that. So for Javier Mendez, Javier Mendez's approval is always the most valuable to me, but he's not someone who bestows approval because he doesn't think of himself as being somebody who should be doing that. He's going to talk to you about what he thinks he needs to do better about himself. He's going to listen to every question you have, and he's always going to make time and have me come work with them.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anyone like just thinking about obviously over the years, like whether it be MMA, wrestling, or jiu-jitsu or whatever? Is there anyone that you would have loved to have worked with?
Oh,
Because you've got a list of people that, do you know what I mean? You talk
yeah,
Islam, Khabib, DC,
love
and
to
so on.
have worked with. I I I guess I don't know how to say this without being weird, but I'm not really a fan.
Mhm.
I don't really know people who I'm not coaching. And
Yeah,
so I really believe that I knew nothing about wrestling. I was, like, I don't know, like a homecoming queen. I wasn't the homecoming queen. I was like a homecoming queen type. I was in the popular, on the periphery or in the popular crowd. And my dad valued what I looked like over what over what I knew.
Yeah.
And so, I'm of the generation where women were supposed to, be these other things. So for me, when I came into this world, I'm happy to be in it, and I feel who is supposed to interact with me is going to happen. So I'm a little bit like Habib in this manner. When I describe him, he is neither coy nor he does not know envy.
Yeah.
He doesn't have those traits. So in this sport, I've tried to be those things.
Yeah.
Do I, like every parent, wish my relationship envy, would like a better relationship with my children, or wish I hadn't said something, or envy that someone had the brains to keep their mouth shut when I should have? Yes, but in this sport, no. So I just see it as where I'm supposed to be. So
Yeah.
I don't really know. I mean, all kinds of people. Like one of the Eagles just reached out to me. I worked with just last year with the Los Angeles Dodgers pitching coaches, and I've worked with a lot of people. And every time I hear from them, I'm sort of okay. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I was just with Henry Cejudo. He just did a
Yes.
bunch of videos about it, and we were carrying on, having a good time. We've
Yeah.
known each other a long time, but I just feel like I was supposed to do. I tell everyone, hey, if I can help you, great. If you want to hear what I have to say, great. And if you don't, great. It's
Yeah.
just a little bit closer to being able to go get a job at a restaurant or Trader Joe's or something. I'm kidding, but I'm not. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I feel
Yeah.
like your time as coaching is done when you no longer, there's not a relevancy for you. A lot of
Yeah.
times in the United States, there's these massive camps and events that people put on to generate revenue for themselves or their organizations, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
USA Wrestling is not able to fund everyone. NCAA does not fund. Most colleges don't fund wrestling. There's a lot of MMA fighters that came out of nothing. I'm all for that. That
Yeah.
those people, want to do those things, and they do those things. But I'm not. I don't have that feel. Like
Yeah.
I'm not in the day, they'll invite all these current NCAA champs and stuff in, and they want them all to make money. I'm down with all of that. But the
Yeah.
day somebody calls me and says, hey, we want to come to your camp, but we're hoping you can invite this coach or this wrestler instead, that's the day I get to say, man, I can't believe I'm the first woman to be a chief corner in the UFC. I'm the first woman to corner a D1 wrestling match.
Yeah.
I am one of the few people who've broached. In the club wrestling world. I am one of the longest standing, most touched as so many people that's never wrestled and never been hired by an institution, a
Yeah.
college or a university. I don't want any of that. I don't want that responsibility. I want to give what I feel I've been given to give for as
Yeah.
long as people want to hear it the way I want to do it, especially toward adults. And then, when it's done, it's done,
Yeah.
right? It's on to the next. I started this at 42. I would have never thought I was going to be doing this at 63. And when I turned 62, I actually said to a lot of people, I wonder if I'm supposed to change again now. But then what happened? All of a sudden, this floodgate opened, and I just got like feeding water in the fire hose
Yeah.
of people that are interested and want to put it together.
Yeah. You got a very good team behind you. You mentioned Sophia, you got Andrew Morgan, Bryce
Yes,
Walcott, you have Paula Nolan
yes,
in there as well. So it's a very, very good team that you have behind you as well.
yes, and it's vital because I am not tech savvy. Bryce Walcott came to see me in 2013 as a high school coach out of Arizona. He's a scientist. He teaches for ASU
Yeah.
and academics in some other areas, and he has done my back end, my website. He writes and does all the courses. He does all of those things, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
And Sophia Viner just has taken our social media or what I'm trying to convey and put it in a way that's so vital. And Paula Nolan is a pit bull. and
Yeah.
you're not going to get past her. So she handles things that, you know, I mean, there's a lot of details of going places and coaching. So
Yeah.
for us, like when we were coming to Scotland and then Ireland, to Belfast with Ryan Roddy, who actually reached out to me in 2022 or
Yeah.
21 and met with me and talked to me online and wanted to know about what I did. But those kinds of details are really hard to get organized. And then
Yeah.
our team, Bryce will step in and help them generate all the flyers. We'll do registration on our site. We attach it to their payment vendor. You know, that takes a lot of effort and work. And then Sophia will talk with them and try to understand what they feel their market share would relate to in terms of encouraging people to attempt and come to these events. And Paula
Yeah.
handles the contracts and, you know, invoicing and things like that. So I'm not spending days and days sitting, you know, stupefied in my
Yeah.
inability to do those things. So it would not be possible. But I have an even bigger team that people don't really realize. And one is Eric Albersay, Captain America, who's the Pitbull's coach and Henry's coach. He has been a lifelong advocate for me.
Yeah.
Certainly Daniel Cormier. I can't imagine, I'll make myself cry. I can't imagine the stuff Daniel has done on my behalf. And I'll tell you a quick story. When he was coming between Strikeforce and into the the UFC still allowed you to have sponsors. So Daniel had two children at the time and was living in a one-bedroom apartment in San Jose where he and Lena shared a car, and he had one big sponsor. And that sponsor, in the middle of the night, probably fueled in a celebratory whatever, sent me a series of like 40 texts that would make the most seasoned streetwalker in the red light district in Amsterdam embarrassed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Daniel heard about it from, I don't know, my son or someone. And that gentleman came to AKA, and that was Daniel's sole check every month.
Mhm.
Sole check. And that guy came to AKA, and I was coaching. There was a Russian there who was super interested in what I had to say. And Daniel called me over. He said, Carolyn, can you come here? And that man was there, and he said, hey, so and so, we don't want you to leave Carolyn alone. He said, oh, we're cool. We're cool. And Daniel goes, I don't want you to text her or send her pictures because the text involved pictures. And he's like, I don't
Yeah.
want you to send her pictures. And he goes, I know she's the first lady of wrestling. And Daniel said, I don't know about that. And I don't know how she did it, but she is the first lady of AKA.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
telling you, don't speak to her.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew that I had a friend who was going to do, even though sometimes we're like siblings and I want to knock him in the head, I had a friend who was going to sacrifice his children and his significant other's best interests to do what was absolutely right.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
me, a female, this is like 2013, 14, a female who was not a wrestler and not competed, who had not whatever, because he knew it was right.
Yeah.
So I have him, Luke Rockhold, Muhammad Ale. There's a lot of people, Jermaine Durandame. There's a lot of people, and the support I get from people like Amanda Nunez and all these people, Laura Senko, John Anik. Those people all, you know, are around me, and I know they've all taken or said, hey, let's not go there. You don't know. And I
Yeah.
feel that. I feel as somebody with autism who's doesn't always process the same way as other people. Sometimes I appear a little deer in the headlights and stuff. And those people have kept me safe.
Yeah.
Feel inside myself.
Yeah.
Made me feel safe inside myself. So I have a huge team of people, and then not to mention the wrestling parents who I know have stepped up, you know, to the line, or, you know, are always watching and making
Yeah.
sure that list is very, very long, and with much gratitude and love, you
Yeah.
know, I feel for them.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, it's something that we don't get. I mean, you talked about like wrestling camps and stuff like that that goes on in America. We don't really see that in the UK. We don't see
Oh,
it at all because obviously for years there was always the joke about Europeans can't wrestle. people from the UK can't wrestle. I think Luke Rockhold said it to Michael Bisping, and
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
that's just Luke.
It
That's
is, it
just
is.
Luke.
But there was always like for years we couldn't wrestle. We couldn't wrestle at all. And then suddenly then we started learning to wrestle, and then things changed for like MMA fighters, for jiu-jitsu, grapplers and stuff like that. And so we don't really see many camps. We don't get me wrong, we get the seminar. We get a
Yes.
seminar and stuff like that. But this one seems a little bit different because, as I said, it's 5 hours. There's 2 sessions, and so it seems to be very, very different from your traditional
Oh, I
seminar.
see. Yeah, so it'll be progressive. So the first thing I'll probably do is demonstrate a little bit around technique and movement, so they could see,
Yeah,
see some, and then we'll start down a path and add on to it. And I think that's what's the big difference. Sometimes people will say to me, "Well, do you need more than an hour and a half?" Then I'm like, "Well, I think you need forever." You know what I mean? Like math is infinite. So we do our camps in the U.S. are very different than other people's camps.
yeah,
Like they do it very differently. I've never been to anybody else's camp. I don't think, maybe around some of Daniel's, on the periphery, but we don't. They usually bring somebody in, they teach one piece of technique, and then the next person come in, and whether it connects together or not isn't germane, and it's up
yeah,
to the athletes to remember the information. In America, so many parents want to give their kids the much as they can, so they jump them and take them around to, all these different coaches. But very few of the kids come with a notebook in their hand and write down what they learned,
yeah,
or practice it later. So that makes it more like a breezy feel. And I'm like, hey, you're a parent. I mean, whether your mom's driving a Mercedes or it's got two used tires on the car, that's their ancillary income, and there's no law that requires your parents to spend their money on you. So if you were in math class at school and you were in class for a week and you couldn't say what you did, there would be consequences for
yeah,
you. And I think that's a little bit different. If you come to a wrestling prep camp and you're trying to learn, you're going to learn a lot. And then when you go back to wherever you go next, you're going to be able to learn what they're learning quicker, because you already have control over your muscles. They're going to be part of that.
yeah,
Last year we had athletes from 38 states and 5 foreign countries, and that was without Phil, because he was expecting. He and Vicky were expecting, so they weren't here. And but we had people come from all over, and this year, I mean, it's crazy. But our camps in Virginia have an incredible, a small university that has an unbelievable, food service. And we stay in the dorms, and it's 10 minutes from the Washington Monument if you want to go down there at night and walk around DC. And there's 2 international airports within 15 minutes, and another big international airport about an hour away. So it's a great place, and all these people come, and a lot of the pro fighters come,
yeah,
and they come to camp, and they benefit from it, and they're wrestling with all ages and levels, because I'm teaching. First, I teach the muscle order, and then they're grouped off by discipline, by body type, by years of experience,
yeah, yeah,
because the technique's different based on where you are. But when you have somebody come and they're just not new to the sport, but just not elite yet, and they watch somebody do the exact same muscle order you did and add on all this technique, and you let them know that that's going to be them next, they're
yeah,
incredibly excited. I think I mean, you don't want to get me wound up, but I think it's incredibly exciting, and I think they do too.
yeah. And also, first time in Scotland. It's going to be your first time
You
coming over to
just you
Scotland.
just can't imagine how excited I am to go to Scotland and
Yeah,
Ireland. I
yeah,
have been to England, and I think I am going to come to England before I get to Ireland. Gabriel Augusto, who's a pro fighter, who's there training now, and some other people are trying to get it organized. But I've been fortunate to go to England many, many times. But
yeah,
I love the folklore, the people, the backstories. I'm from a small town in Kentucky. I'm like a little bit of a country girl. So I just went to schools in big cities, but
yeah,
I'm so incredibly excited.
yeah,
I
yeah,
hope, I meet people and they want to do things and go places and all that kind of stuff because I'm down.
Yeah, yeah. Give me some because anytime I meet people, especially in America, I remember coming over to I went to Irvine in Orange County, and
Oh,
we did a world's training camp for jiu-jitsu, the jiu-jitsu worlds, the IBJJF worlds, and I remember coming over and speaking to people, and the things they were asking is, do they wear kilts over in Scotland?
oh. Well,
Do
men definitely wear skirts in the U.S.
Yeah, so but do you wear kilts all the time in Scotland? Do you drink whiskey? And I remember I was telling them about haggis. So haggis is the traditional
Yeah.
Scottish food, and I'd convinced them all it was an animal. It's not an animal, but I'd convinced them it was an animal that runs about, and we hunt haggis. And so, is there anything that you think, like, obviously from Scotland, that is like something in your head or something that you've been told that we do, and I could eliminate that right now for you.
I think I think I am a little nervous about the food because I
Yeah,
don't really because when in the southeast where I'm from, there's Rocky Mountain oysters and things like that, and
yeah,
I think I'm a little nervous about the food, but I'm really interested in the people, and
yeah,
I don't think I have any preconceived notions. Well, I have been around Phil for, Phil and I probably talk on, work online together
yeah,
for,
yeah,
3 years now. So, I mean, I don't feel like there's anything like that. I want to see what people think I should see. My daughter's company is based out of England. She lives in the US, but is over there now and just left London to Ireland. And I keep asking her, and she's like, "You'll be fine, Mom. You'll be fine." And I'm like, "I want to know something." So I ordered this little book, two books on every all the idioms and nuances and things people say for Scotland and Ireland, so I don't absolutely mess myself up because there's a high likelihood I will. So
yeah.
I'm really excited about that.
Listen, you'll be absolutely fine. You'll be absolutely fine. But there's a few places to go. I mean, as I said, there is in Fife. There's the UK's best fish and chip shop. It's in a place called Anstruther. So we'll
Fish and
definitely
chips, fish
fish
and
and
chips.
chips.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's fresh fish because it's
Oh,
Anstruther has a um, where the fish comes in. So it's fresh and everything's good. So we'll get Phil to take you there if you like to try some very, very beautiful fish and chips. That's where
I
you
want
can
to
go.
try some very very beautiful fish and chips.
And haggis, you have to try haggis. You
What
have to
is
try haggis.
haggis? Tell me.
Haggis is uh, haggis is it's a traditional Scottish dinner. So what we do is we have it with potatoes and turnip. Okay, so and what we do is it's called haggis, neeps, and tatties. Okay, so and we have it on Burns Night. Burns Night. Robert Burns, the poet. So every January, in fact, it's coming up at the end of January, and we have haggis, neeps, and tatties. And haggis is beautiful. I don't want to tell you what it is. I want you to try it first, but don't 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 listen to anybody when they're trying to tell you what it is because it will
Is this
put you.
like when somebody says your blind date has a good personality?
Well, haggis. Believe it or not, haggis is banned in America. It's banned. You cannot import it into
Why?
America at all. America banned it because of the way it's made.
Mm.
Okay, and how it's put together. So it's in like sheep intestines and but it's a beautiful, beautiful food. But yeah, you cannot get it in America because America banned it a number of years ago. So
Oh
uh,
my gosh.
but
That
you,
sounds interesting.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
We'll get Phil. We'll get Phil to take you. We'll definitely get Phil
Yeah,
to take you.
he definitely needs to take me. And I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to meeting his son.
Yes. Yes. And we'll try to get some of the guys to put their kilts on as well when you come
Well,
over.
that'd be very nice.
We'll try and get some kilts out, and we'll make sure we get a few of them with their kilts on and so on, just to make it a little bit more welcoming for you. Welcoming.
Well, I would
So
love that. I love the accent.
yeah.
I think it's spectacular.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure I'll just laugh the whole time I'm there. because that's what I do. And
Yeah.
when I coach, I think when MMA world's different from, we're talking about MMA here. So, in wrestling, high school wrestling, collegiate wrestling, the topics in the wrestling room, practice room are different than in the MMA room. So sometimes we'll get, AKA, we would get somebody in who, wanted to let it rip. And they would look at me, and Daniel's like, it's okay. She's might be the worst, just let it rip, So I'm looking forward to, just hearing how everybody is. But I'm really direct. So
Yeah.
I usually are just like, don't talk while I'm talking or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
really direct. And that's the only way to be when you're trying to coach a room of, 50 people.
Yeah.
So, I heard Phil mentioned today there's some people coming from France,
Yeah.
and I suspect some people will come from, other places. I think they're waiting to see if I'm going to be in. And now I just heard from Ryan Roddy today on getting everything settled for Ireland and then in London. But I think that people will come. Gabriel Augusto will probably come with me to somewhere, Scotland or Ireland, based on what he needs to do. And
Yeah, one of the people that's coming over, Remy White. Remy White. Remy everywhere. Remy does photography and so on. So she's also a jiu-jitsu. I think Remy's. Correct me if I'm wrong, Remy, but I think Remy was. She's either a blue or a purple belt, from what I can remember. The last time I saw Remy, she was at the ADCC Invitational in Scotland, and she comes. Her husband comes, and her kids come as well, and she won her match, and her kids came on the mat and stuff like that. And
oh,
it was an amazing
beautiful.
experience. Yeah, yeah. But I think Remy, if now my geography is going to be horrible here, but I'm sure she's either from Greece or Cyprus.
Oh,
So
beautiful is
she'll be,
that?
yeah, yeah. And she came over to with her family, and she did a tour of Scotland. And she went to lots of different gyms and so on. So she's going to be coming as well. So she's going to be coming over as well. She'll be taking pictures as well. She'll get some beautiful pictures. She does some awesome pictures at different events and so on. So it'll
Well,
be
I'm
good to see
excited to
Remy.
meet her because she posted a story and tagged me in it. So, she says Cyprus. And
Cyprus, yeah,
that's fantastic. Then I reposted it. So I went to see, went to her Instagram profile, and I was
yeah,
fascinated to see she was an artist. So,
yes, yeah,
taking pictures and making them matter is something that's a skill that is really in affects your whole life, your memories, your life, how you see yourself through somebody else instead
yeah.
of how you see yourself in the moment. And people like Remy, provide that. So I'm really excited and grateful that she had enough interest to send out a story.
Yeah, so she's going to be there. And Remy has had a family and so on, really nice family. Husband's such a nice guy, and like I do a lot of the like podcasts and stuff like that. I do commentary on. We do like kids comps and stuff like that, and so
Oh,
I travel all over the UK doing the commentary and so on, and I do a lot of promoting people and getting people out there and all that kind of stuff. And so I remember like speaking to Remy's husband, and she's like, and he was like, "Oh, you're Stoomboy." Because everybody knows me as Stoomboy. So she said, "Oh, you're Stoomboy. Oh, I finally get to meet you," and so on. And he was just so excited to meet me, and I'm thinking, wow,
is it,
it was great for me. I thought it was brilliant. So uh,
isn't that lovely when
yeah,
somebody makes you? Did you say CatchCon wrestling?
uh,
CatchCon events?
no,
Oh,
jiu-jitsu event. Sorry, jiu-jitsu event. So, well, when I say jiu-jitsu, it's grappling events, grappling.
well, the
So,
reason I was asking CatchCon is they have a big presence around the world, and I'm actually going to be speaking at their um, national event, and that's why I just thought you said it. So that's what
yeah,
made me think about it. Yeah,
but
it's so great when somebody who's feels something and it's made them feel something about what you've done.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's odd. I chose not to. My ex husband's a great man. We're best of friends, but I chose not to I didn't feel that having to be remarried or something was a priority for me. And
Yeah,
so a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, you're going to be this or you'll be that. You need to remarry." And I'm like, "Well, I don't think I do." But I said, I don't know what it's like for you do, but I go places and people are just spending their time telling me how much they appreciate me and love me and I'm welcome. Hey, there's nothing better than getting to be yourself
yeah, yeah,
and then feeling those things. You're not going to be popular with everyone, and I'm completely comfortable with that.
yeah,
I absolutely embrace everybody's right to have their own opinion, and
yeah.
I'm down with that. But I'm really grateful for everybody who spends time with me. Look what Remy wrote. I'm so excited.
Yeah, she's very, very excited. Been following you for almost 2 years. Now excited to try the movements firsthand too. So we also had a comment coming in. Suspect I8E. So I don't know who that is. Obviously, that's their YouTube nickname. But they're saying every time you speak, they learn something. And more people need to know about Carolyn Wester.
That's super nice. I try. It's so easy to I try to tell especially kids and fighters that are coming up who say things like, why isn't when Javi was predominantly in the US, now he's predominantly in the UAE and Dubai, but they would say, why won't Javi hold mitts for me, why won't somebody do this kind of stuff for me? And some of the guys at AKA might just turn their back and go on to their practice, but I usually am straight up with them about it and feel I need to share something that I did not wake up that morning saying I want to share this piece of information with somebody,
Yeah,
but I'll
yeah,
say it, and hopefully I've been kind enough or caring enough prior that they recognize I wouldn't be saying it unless I needed to say it. That's why Javier Mendez is so effective with me.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
completely focused on me when he's around me, and if he has something to say, it it doesn't feel like it barely feels like I got a pinprick
yeah,
because of everything else. So I try really hard to say what other people are comfortable saying. I'm not inhibited by being hired by a university. I don't put myself in situations where other people have authority over me in any way.
yeah,
So I mean, besides common law and stuff. So I feel more comfortable saying what I think
yeah, yeah,
needs to be said, even though it's really hard for people to hear. But in the last 4 or 5 years, the number of people that want to hear what I'm saying has greatly increased. I really thought after a certain amount of time, like this would be, I don't know, I'd be gardening or I don't know whatever I'm
yeah,
supposed to do next, which I don't know. Because,
yeah.
when you try to control those things, it often is makes your life. I bet you didn't think you were going to be doing this either, Stuart, and
No,
now you're a
no.
major voice for this sport that helps so many people. It's so popular around the world out of a country that would not probably have a voice if you hadn't stood up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I remember I started doing this I did my first podcast about 6 years ago. And then I remember during COVID, I remember it was very different during COVID because the Scotland completely shut down. We could not train. We weren't allowed to open gyms and all that kind of stuff, which was the same for a lot of places. So the mood was very different. And then coming out of COVID, I don't know, things like combat sports in general, MMA, jiu-jitsu, wrestling seems to have got so much better post COVID than pre COVID, which obviously I can't think how. And a lot more people are now more people are now involved. The thing that changed as well, especially in this country, is there's a lot more females involved in the sport. And I've done podcasts with different guests. We talked about how to get more females into the sport and do you know what I mean, the safety and all that kind of stuff for women. And now there's more women involved in the sport. I mean, you talk about Remy. Remy's coming all the way from Cyprus to come to your training camp, and
I'm so tired.
um, yeah, yeah. And as I say, Remy's one of many women that are part of Scotland or they've been part of Scotland. and it's great. I mean, the evolution of the sport just in the last few years for any combat sports has been absolutely phenomenal. And
There,
people like yourself, people like you, out there teaching the next generation coming through as well, which is awesome to see.
I think one of the things about MMA and jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu probably in MMA allows people from every sector to
Yeah,
participate at the level of their comfort
yeah,
and be a part of a community that resonates. And wrestling, there are not really wrestling clubs for adults after you get out of college.
yeah,
There's not every corner strip mall. There's not a taekwondo or an after school judo or an after school karate or jujitsu place where these kids come, get an identity, feel comfortable. And for women, it's funny. People will say to me, "How has it changed?" Since sort of the Me Too movement, when Ashley Judd first confronted uh, the world about Harvey Weinstein. And what I want to say is that for people under 30, 35, 40, they don't really have a lot of prejudice about me being a female
mhm,
unless it was learned from
yeah,
a
yeah,
from a parent or a coach, but mostly learned. But men that are my age in general, like in the dating app world, they feel, their first question is, are you free every weekend? Can you meet for dinner before 6 o'clock? I want someone who's going to travel with me and live with me. And I'm like, what? Jiu-jitsu teaches you that everybody has their own passion, MMA
yeah,
passion, and you're going to
yeah,
coexist in this world. So if you're meeting somebody or with someone and you say, hey, I have a 6 p.m. jiu-jitsu class every Friday, I'm not going to miss. They don't go, well, who's going to take care of me? It
yeah,
it it breeds everybody's going to take care of themselves, and that
yeah,
allows people to have different passions and to have crossover relationships based on having mutual enthusiasm for other things, having enthusiasm for other things, but it doesn't have to be taken care of or adhering to or some sort of hierarchical component to the
yeah,
relationship. And
yeah,
I think that's what's the beauty of MMA and jiu-jitsu. Wrestling doesn't really breed that because there's just nothing you can do. You can't be a 38, 52-year-old woman and go to a wrestling camp and club and learn
yeah,
beginner wrestling and have courses 4 times a week for you to learn, and then you're going to get a different belt or encouraged to go to the next level. It
yeah,
doesn't happen. But in
yeah,
MMA and jiu-jitsu, it does. And when I first started being asked to uh, participate in jujitsu events like right around 2017, 18. I was like, I'm going to learn what I can do to help anybody who's in jujitsu. So a lot of times people will say people are scared to come because they're afraid they can't do what you teach or because they see what's on social media, which is always usually the most enhanced.
yeah,
But in actuality, um, I had a just to sidestep and make the same story, there was an Olympic diver who was on the last sets of Olympics, and he reached out, high board diver, which is why I'm not jumping off that board. Um, you know, so he had me on his podcast, and he was sort of laughing, like, I don't think you could really teach somebody to do that. I said, well, take that headset off, and I'll teach you right now. And
yeah,
he was able to do it when he just concentrated on the muscle order, not on what he thought it looked like in his head. So
yeah,
for people, I think what helps people when I do stuff is that anybody can take something back that if they apply it and remember to apply it and don't get caught up in what other people see will improve and then hopefully make them feel able to be more vulnerable to people they want to associate, make them, take a better step in their job and ask for, a raise or a promotion, or maybe say to someone they're involved with, hey, can we take a look and maybe change how we're in, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But what
yeah,
matters is they have historic success of learning something, applying something, and affecting something that they're doing without being overly supervised or, you know, molded to be what the instructor or the person teaching wants.
Yeah, yeah. But listen, I'm very excited. I'm very excited for the 14th of March. I can't wait. I know that everybody, and again, Philip's been talking about you. Philip talks about you all the time, right? So everybody at Braveheart knows who you are. When he comes to different events and stuff like that, and I see him at events. Everybody at events knows exactly who Carolyn Wester is. So I know the event as well. The event's limited. So it's limited to 30 people.
Well, actually, I think I heard today that Stevie was able to raise it so we could get 50 because they've already passed 30.
Yeah, yeah.
So he said, did you know that they said they could boost it to
Well,
50?
they were talking about increasing it because I knew that as soon as Philip had done the post, and then he said to me, Stoom, could you put the post up? So I put it on. We've got a community page, a jiu-jitsu community page for Scotland. So I put it on there and I said, look, guys, jump quickly. So I knew it was going to sell out 30, and I was thinking, wow, like, so for him to increase it to 50 is going to be brilliant. So, and anybody that misses out, man, listen, get the course, get these online courses. Do you know what I mean? So I see sometimes you maybe miss the chance, but I mean, if you like Scotland, Carolyn, I'm sure you'll come back. I'm sure you'll
Yes.
come back.
Oh no, I'd be happy to come back. I've always said that the only thing that would keep me from doing things would be if one of my children would ramp up and have a child, and I don't think either of my children are currently interested in doing that. So I am beyond grateful that I am valued, that I can help people, that I provide value, and that people want me to come places because I am completely down to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So guys, make sure you're hitting up Philip Tam. Don't hit up Stevie, because obviously Stevie, this is Philip that's sorting all this out. Do you know what I mean? So definitely do not message Stevie, because I know that some people will message Braveheart directly, but no, message Philip Tam, as I said, he's on Facebook. It's probably the best place to get him. So definitely message them through there. So if they do increase, as I said, they're sold out at the moment, but as I said, hopefully they do be able to increase that to an
Yeah.
extra 20 and try to
That's
get a
what
few
I
more
just got
people.
a message right before I jumped on from Phil.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think
So
he was trying to let me know so I would say it.
yeah, so make sure you get involved, get over to this, because as I said, Carolyn, it's not very often we get. Don't get me wrong, we get high level people coming over for jujitsu and stuff like that, but there's not very often we get high level coaches or high level people like say yourself that come over that are teaching. Do you know what I mean? Like top UFC fighters and Bellator fighters and so on, and top wrestlers and things like that. So it doesn't happen very often. So guys, make sure you do get involved in that. If you don't, as I said, head over to the Wrestling Prep website. And you'll see all the information through there. There's an about us. It'll tell you all about Carolyn on the website as well. You've got the courses on there. You'll be able to see the reviews and stuff like that. There's some videos and things like that on there as well. Head over to Wrestling Prep on Instagram as well. So make sure you do follow the page. There's some great videos on there. The videos with Henry Cejudo is hilarious. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's an absolute double act, the two of you together. And you look like you're having so much fun. So definitely make sure you do follow the Instagram page for sure. Also the YouTube page as well, Wrestling Prep YouTube. So that there's a lot of stuff out there on Carolyn. So final thing for you then, Carolyn. Anybody you want to shout out to?
Well, I really want to shout out to how brave Phil was to come to the U.S. He came over. He didn't know what he was doing. It was, a little bit right at the end of COVID, and he jumped in this practice room with maybe 10 D1 wrestlers, a couple of pro fighters, some athletes who've been with me since Chris Creason and Harry Maltese, who've been with me Chris's whole life, and he just tried it. He never complained. He wanted to learn. He went back to Scotland. He said, let's work online. We would work online. He would go over to Braveheart, put up the Zoom camera. We'd work in his living room, and when Vicky was at the hospital, being a nurse, and then came back and then kept doing it. And that takes, he's not looking to generate income. This isn't something where he's trying to become a better doctor or something that's required, the certification. This is his own desire to be the best possible he can be, and seeking out what he felt would help him, and then trying to encourage others to share or have a, benefits, whatever it was I said that or helped him with, that benefit him. And that's who I really want to shout out. And even though I know we're not talking about Ireland, Ryan Roddy, because Ryan reached out to me in 2021 or 22 and sent me a message, and we would get on Zoom and talk about what was going on. So when I said, no, I'm coming to Scotland, he's like, I am down. So, I really appreciate that, because those were both two practitioners. One owns a gym, one's more, not like hobbyist, but not a professional fighter. Ryan, obviously, stellar career. And those people, I really, and always Javier Mendez, for, I don't have the words, and for all the people who reach out to me all the time and make me feel valued and special. And for an autistic person, sometimes I can't emote back right away how I'm feeling, but it's just, I can't imagine what I ever did or to deserve this kind of support and love and gratitude that I've experienced in this 20 years of doing this.
Yeah.
For sure.
Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I knew we were going to have a great chat when we were talking in the WhatsApp, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be a great chat. This is going to be good. So, listen, as I said, I'm absolutely buzzing to see you come over. Do you know what I mean? I know everybody that's going to be there on the day. Do you know what I mean? You guys are going to learn so much. You're going to learn so much, and it's going to be stuff that you're going to be able to use. And again, there's a lot of people who are MMA fighters that are going to be there. A lot of amateur MMA fighters that are going to be there. A lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners and so on. So it's going to be exciting for them. And as I said, it's definitely things that you're going to be able to use. So make sure you're there. Make sure you're paying attention as well. I know that in Scotland, our attention span can be distracted sometimes. So make sure you are paying attention, and bring a notepad and pen with you for sure. So
please don't ask me at the end if I could write down everything I taught and text it to you, because that will be a big, salty, hearty hell no. Yeah. Maybe something else besides hell. No.
Definitely. So, guys, there we go then. Carolyn Wester, Wrestling Prep's going to be heading over March the 14th, Braveheart MMA. So, as I said, if you are looking to get on, they've just opened another 20. So, head over to it's on the Braveheart MMA page.
It's on my page too.
On Carolyn's page as well.
Under clinics. And there's a link. There's a link to Phil.
Yeah, so make sure you head over there. But Carolyn, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. Enjoy the rest. Yeah, listen, enjoy the rest of whatever you're doing. And yeah, listen, we'll see you on March the 14th.
Can't wait. I'll be so happy.
Yes. And we're going to take you for haggis. You're going to get haggis.
Okay.
Thank you again. Have a lovely day.
You too.
Take care.